Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I like. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Person of Interest. So in this episode, it deals with the, kind of fractured team getting a new number, and that new number is the president's number. And this episode is very interesting on many different levels. I mean, obviously, it's everyone dealing with just their feelings of what went down last episode, losing Root. You had that conversation with the machine and Harold, and he's just talking about, please don't, just use any other person's voice. I don't want to hear you using her voice. It hurts too much. And it's just the machine talks about the fact that she loved Root. And, Harold's can't really comprehend. It's he's basically saying, you don't understand, the way I'm feeling. Because she's you're hurting, Harold. You are. He's you can't understand the depths of how I'm hurting. But the machine is I do, because I loved Root too. You made me in a way that I've kept my eyes on lots of people, and I've seen them in 1,000 different ways. And so, she's gotten to examine and know people because she's watched over so many different people and, different simulations she's run in her mind about these people and their interactions that might lead to them being in danger. So, in those regards, she's gotten to know people, especially Root. She really cared for her because in return, Root really cared for her, because Root, automatically attached to the machine, and she really got attached to Harold because Harold was the creator of this this artificial intelligence, this guy, and for the first time in a long time, Root actually had a family with them, and it was just what hurt even more was the machine was basically saying before Root died, she tried to run thousands of simulations of trying to find a way to save Root, and each simulation she died. She had to watch her die in every simulation, and then couldn't do anything to save her. And she's you don't understand the depths of how I feel, the way I had to handle that. And what I love most about this episode is because eventually Harold kind of changed his mind about it, but what I loved is that the machine not only sounds like her, she even adapted Root's personality, because she started calling her Harry. She started calling him Harry's basically later on in the episode, it was kind of a sweet moment where Harold was I know I've kind of have my hesitation about you using her voice, but it's okay. Because I want you to keep using her voice because I miss, it reminds me of her. It keeps her alive in my heart because, I miss her voice. And she's oh, Harry, you always say the sweet, how to say the sweetest thing to her. It's she says, and that it makes it's sweet yet heartbreaking. It's that's something Root would definitely say, because it was she basically spent so much time with Root. She's examined Root that it's 96% she's kind of allocated Root. It's almost, she's saying basically it's almost indistinguishable between her and Root. She's adopted that much of Root that it'd be kind of hard to tell the two apart. Because even one moment she tried to use what was it, one of Harold's teachers from the past voice, but she didn't have enough data on him to do it. So, but I want to focus on what Harold did for a little bit. Because it's apparently whatever he did, he got a virus that apparently it's going to be able to stop Samaritan, but apparently there are going to be consequences. We don't know what those consequences are, but the machine is warning him about using this powerful virus. And he's kind of but the machine, the Samaritan needs to be stopped, and I'll kind of deal with the consequences of it. And there was that moment that shows you Harold's kind of fighting on a different level than he was before. It kind of in all honesty, because he's kind of in contact with the machine, he kind of reminds me of Root, obviously. When she's her being the analog interface, it seems that's her aspect on it. It seems that's him kind of taking up that role now. Basically, when that soldier pulled a gun on him, basically he tapped his ear and he's oh, you have a daughter that needs a transplant. There's somebody that's going to die soon that is perfect match for her. Let us go and she'll get at her. Don't let us go, and we'll make sure that she's at the bottom of the transplant list. And now that's a little harsh. It's wow, Harold did some stuff like that, but at the same time, it's understandable because I don't think he really meant it. He was just using it whatever he could to threaten someone. Harold in the past never would have done that, but any means necessary to defeat Samaritan to win this war, because like I said, they just lost someone very important to them, and he wants to destroy Samaria to make it pay for what it did. I mean, we even like, and what makes it whole sad about even more so about the whole Root situation. Root couldn't even be buried underneath her real name. Actually, I completely forgot her real name was Samantha. Like, she's gone by Root for so long, because like she was introduced back in, was it season 1 or wasn't it season 1? She was introduced something like, yeah, she was introduced way back in season 1. And like, cause you got a little bit of her background, which her background is sad because like the story made it seem like her best friend that ended up dying was Root, but it wasn't her. It was her friend, that girl that died, her friend, that's Root. I'm trying to think, was that season 1 or was that season 2? I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that was season 1. Maybe I'm completely nuts. But anyway, she couldn't even be buried under her real name because it would lead them back. It would lead them back to the machine as well as the team. But I love what Fusco said. He was like, she was a bit crazy. Like, we all know that, but she was a very dedicated woman. Like, to this war, she was a good soldier. She deserves to be buried like one. And basically, Reese agrees, and he's basically like, we have to finish this war that she started. And in this episode also, we saw like Shaw kind of unraveled like a little bit. Like, she in her mind is thinking like, okay, this is another simulation. She's like, screw this simulation. I want to restart. And John's trying to tell her it's not a simulation. Because Root kept her grounded. Even during the simulations, anytime it came down to it, she's like, I'd rather kill myself than kill you. I mean, that's what it continues to hurt because it's like, Shaw fought so hard to get back to Root. Yes, the team, but specifically Root. Root is what kept her balanced. Root is what kept her sane. Root is what kept her from being completely, manipulated by Samaritan, because that was the one person she could never kill because she loved her. And it's just like, you just got back to the person you loved, because Root kept trying to convince her, guy, this isn't a simulation. You're here with us. You're in the real world, but it's just like, now that she's gone, it's just like, you see Shaw kind of unravel. You don't see her outright mourning. She's not like, you don't see her being sad, but she is. She's a trained soldier, so she just buries that stuff deep. It'll probably only, like, if you had to put it in a metaphorical sense, on the inside, she's probably in a room full of furniture, breaking as much stuff, or probably killing as many people as she can, just because it hurts that much. I mean, she was to the point, she was like, I screwed this simulation, I want to get a reboot, and she was going to turn herself over to Samaritan. She kind of revealed herself to the camera, but it seems the machine, like all the identities it was going to give to Root for like her missions and stuff, it seems like she's passed them on to Shaw. So all the stuff that Root was going to do now has been passed down to Shaw to do. So now what we really get into though with this episode, main focus of this, I mean, obviously those are big parts of this episode, but another part of this episode is actually discussing like what this whole situation is, why they have the president's number. It ends up being that there's like a kind of a little bit of domestic terrorism. It's basically a group that is tired of the surveillance system, the way the government's handling things. It's like, keeping an almighty watch on it, and so on its people, and it's just like, okay, they're basically a group that wants to take care of them. There's kind of a group like this before. I forgot what they were. They were basically a group that was manipulated by Samaritan. Was that season 3 or 4? That's what I mean. I hate it because like the season's kind of blur in my mind because it's been so long. I'm pretty sure that was like season maybe 4. I don't know. It was that I forgot what they were led by that dude. I don't remember his name, but basically he even put Harold in, like he put Harold as well as everyone that's connected to the machine. He put them on trial essentially, but it ends up finding out like, he's just being manipulated by Samaritan. He thought he was in control of everything, but it's like, nope, you're just a pawn in this entire game. That group. So it was very similar to them. Because we ended up finding out that whole group, like that group was literally Samaritan was behind it. Like he got manipulated. Like, okay, you got my point. But nevertheless, it was kind of a repeat of that, and they're just like we're doing this for our nation. But because Shaw kind of brought up a good point. You're trying to kill the president. You do realize that you doing this will lead to thousands of other people being dead, because it's like the president's position kind of keeps a balance in the world. It's a key piece in keeping the balance amongst different countries and leaders. And it's like once you remove that piece, it's kind of like a Jenga piece. You remove the wrong piece, it all comes tumbling down. So basically saying like you killing this one person will lead to thousands of people's deaths. But it's like the fact of the matter is, it's like we're fighting a good fight. We're doing the right thing type of mentality. So those lives, there has to be sacrifices in war. Essentially, to do the right thing, there must be sacrifices. So, but luckily enough, they were able to stop them. Prevent the president from being killed. I did like the fact, because the car was like the car he was going to get in was obviously going to be attacked by a drone, and then Reese is like, okay, shoot at the president, and she's like, whatever you say, Wilkes Booth, and starts shooting towards him, obviously missing, but Reese is kind of like, I didn't really mean like actually shoot at him. She's like, I missed on purpose, jackass. But was able to stop and save everything. Because I didn't know how to interpret this. Basically, there was that guy. He made I had to actually look him up, because I was like, because he's the one that's played by Jimmy Simpson. That's just I recognized the actor's name immediately when I saw. I was like, oh, Jimmy Simpson's in this episode. I was like, really? Who's playing? There's a character. I looked it up. He's from like season 2. It's like I haven't seen season 2 since it originally. Like since around the time of original airing, like 2013, I haven't seen it since then. So I was like, who is he? Like, it's like, oh, he's a number they've come across before. I was like, that's strange. I was like, oh crap, he's part of this group that's coming after the president. Then you met Joey again, and they're like, oh yeah. I was like, I didn't remember Joey. They're like, oh yeah, Joey's one. Like Reese is like, oh yeah, Joey's also one of our first. I was like, wait, something's going on here. I was like, wait, are people connected to you guys? Part of this group, or is this something else? And then finally we meet what was her name? Harper. Now Harper I remember because she was last season. Like I saw last season not too long ago. It was a couple months ago. It was a little bit after like the season originally aired. I saw like up to like half, like the cutoff point for me that I originally saw was season 4 before I had to go back to it was around the episode where he imagined seeing Carter. It was around that episode, but I kind of went back and rewatched some episodes like much later on, once like whatever the case may be. It's a lot fresher in my mind, so I was like, oh, I immediately know Harper, the con artist from season 4, and then it turns out like, oh, they all three of them working together. You're helping Reese and Shaw, and it's like, oh, the machine sent you. It's like we were sent to protect the president. They were sent to make sure that you were okay, that you had an exit. I was like, the machine has other teams. It's like, yo, we got Team OG here, but we got a team here that works in Washington. It's like, oh, you think New York's the only place that's got murders and crimes? It's like, that's so interesting. It's kind of like, who else is out there? It's like, well, we don't know. Like, maybe we're the only ones, or maybe there's others. Now, to me, for one, that's setting up the sad ending, though. It's like Fusco, Shaw, Harold, and Reese are all going to die, but the fight's going to keep on because the machine's going to lead other teams, pick other people who, with their talents, they can do good in this world. So that's what that's going to come down to. That's what this episode is pointing out. It's already showing you the path. It's like, even if all our main characters die, the fight will continue on to fight for those irrelevant numbers. It's like, that's so, like, I was almost like, dude, that blew my mind. I was like, that is kind of like wickedly awesome. Because I don't know why, it never crossed my mind that the machine would like arm itself up with other teams scattered across the world. I mean, at least here in the US, I mean, worldwide, who knows? And that was something else that kind of came up in this episode, kind of connected to that, because the machine kind of like pushing even more of Root's personality. Is like, you won't let me kind of go unleashed. You're kind of not letting me arm myself. Like, it's like basically saying like, do you know how much trouble, like how much I have to go through just to get like, the numbers to you, like all the people I have to watch, all the simulations she has to kind of run to make sure it's like, okay, this is definitely like how this situation is going to play out. And basically just to get them the numbers is kind of its own, kind of a bit of a hassle. But if she was unleashed, if she was armed, like Root's been saying in the past, then maybe things would be different. She could probably help out more people because they've helped people in the past, but a very small number. If she was armed and unleashed, she could help many more people. And very interestingly enough, it brought up Harold to like make a comparison story. Because basically he was saying like, he's okay with feeling pain because he wants to feel pain because he didn't outright, like, the machine was like, so you want to feel pain because you feel guilty. It's like, that's why you never fixed your leg because of Nathan, because you felt guilty about the whole situation with Nathan. He wanted to go help the irrelevant numbers. You were like, they are irrelevant numbers. We have to focus on the relevant ones because of that. And, Nathan ended up dying. He ended up getting that hurt leg. And, maybe he could have had that leg fixed, but he kept it because he wanted it as a reminder. In his words, he was kind of saying like, pain kind of kept him grounded to reality. He's like, if he didn't have it, he's like, he doesn't know who he'd be. Basically he wants to punish himself for all the mistakes he's made in the past. He wants to feel the pain, especially the pain he's currently feeling about Root. He wants to feel all of it because he has to pay for his crimes. The crimes, even including the machine. She's like, oh, you consider me one? He's like, yeah, sort of. Like, there are plenty of situations where people started off with the best of intentions and it turns out later on that it was a disaster. Like, for instance, he made basically the guy who created Freon. It ended up helping out a lot of people, but 50 years later after he died, ended up finding out that Freon is tearing a hole in the ozone layer. Like, scientists figured that out. So it's like, he started off doing something good for someone, but what he ended up doing was causing much more damage, like on a global scale. So it's kind of that situation. So it was a very interesting comparison. I don't know, like because the machine isn't like Samaritan, because that also got brought up because Shaw was like, no agency acted on like the president. We kind of interfered and like kind of put some like there was no like big time agencies protecting the president, because Samaritan also got the president's number too, and he was a relevant number. So, and no agency acted upon it. So that means Samaritan chose the president as being irrelevant. So it's like if it basically sees the president as irrelevant, so then what else will Samaritan deem irrelevant, I mean, it's working with people for now, but eventually, in its eyes, everyone is irrelevant, to it. It's like, in my opinion, it seems like Samaritan thinks of itself, it definitely thinks of itself as a god, like, I am the one who puts this all together, like, I'm trying to create a perfect world for you ants. You ants are playing in my sandbox, essentially. Because that's what they are to Samaritan, little ant puppets that it can string along and use in whatever means necessary. The machine's not like that necessarily, but I guess, that's always a fear of Harold. It's like, once the machine is unleashed, what will people who have connections to the machine do with it, and what will the, machine do with it? But I mean, it's like, he's so worried about it, but I think he is forgetting that he kind of gave the machine a heart. It's kind of like the Tin Man. He gave it a heart. Him, Reese, all the people that it's connected to, Root, Fusto, Shaw, it gave the machine a heart, kind of like, it kind of showed it what love is, what it means to sacrifice yourself for the people that you care about, to sacrifice yourself for the greater good, So, I don't know. I'm very interested to see where we go from here. Like, I'm still, like, that whole, like, oh, there's another team of them being brought in by the machine. That to me just like blows my mind. I cannot remember her character's name. I know the actress's name. Her name is Paige Turco. She's the lady that kind of has that little bit of a flirty relationship with John that she pops in every once in a while. She's kind of like a handler. Like she's a cleaner. She basically cleans up people's messes. Kind of any scandals they kind of get. She's to a slight degree, she's kind of like the Olivia Pope of person of interest, to a slight degree, just not necessarily always political, cleanup. She does other stuff too, but to anyone that didn't get that, that was me making a scandal reference, referencing its main protagonist. Nevertheless, maybe she's actually on one of those teams too, because like these were made from numbers that they've come across in the past, particularly irrelevant numbers. So maybe the machine is arming itself up with the like well-equipped irrelevant numbers from that the team have helped out, or maybe it's just all the irrelevant numbers, period. It's just, I'm very curious to see where that goes. Like I said, the path has been laid to go towards the ending I like just spoke about, but maybe it's not. Like, I don't know. We've got 2 more episodes, and next week's episode looks crazy, and I just cannot wait. Like I said, I'm curious to see what kind of damage Harold is planning on doing with the virus. I mean, like last week's episode, Harold talked about it. He's not playing by his rules anymore, and it kind of shows, especially in some of the stuff he's doing this episode. It's like, and like what he did this episode, what he was threatening that guy with, and it's like, yo, it makes you wonder, how did all those other military guys kind of get knocked out? Like when Harold came out the room, they were all scattered across the ground, knocked out. So I was like, did Harold do that with the help of the machine? Like I said, it probably, you know, like he's armed with the machine. Like he's kind of this quote unquote new analog interface, like Root. You know, Root. You know, it's like once you're connected, because it happened for John one time too. It's like the machine would tell you left or right. You walk down the hallway and you turn, you point your gun to the left. There's someone walking. You bam, you shoot him. So don't know. Like, I'm very curious to see where we go from here. And it's like, will Reese, Shaw, as well as Fusco get to him in time before he does something he'll end up regretting? Like I said, this whole virus thing, I don't even know like what those consequences could be that she, like, I can't even fathom them. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, we kind of saw Shaw kind of go off on her own. I don't know whether she, you know, because she was reluctant to do like work, you know, because like she's like, yo, we got to take care of Samaritan now. We don't need to be worrying about, you know, these irrelevant numbers. We don't need to be worrying about a number. We need to go track down Samaritan and find a way to find Harold so we can destroy Samaritan. Because, you know, she's like, obviously you're like, okay, that's the main thing to do, but obviously it's because she wants revenge. It's like they killed a woman she loves, someone very close to her. Like, we've never seen Shaw actually care for that many people. Like, I mean, we've only seen a fraction of her life. Only, like, we saw her, you know, obviously when we first got introduced to her, she was working for, wasn't she working for the CIA? And, you know, also, like, pieces of her childhood, but that's about it. There was her partner, her CIA partner, that she ended up kind of, I don't know if she actually had feelings for him, but she definitely cared for him. Other than that, and the team en route, like, she's cared for very few people in her life, you know? And she's kind of always kind of numbed herself because, you know, ever since her dad died, she kind of numbed herself. There was that moment in the episode where she was kind of, like, setting that guy up. She's like basically about to torture that guy to get information out of him. She's like, oh, you think we don't work for the government? I'm about to do bad things to you, and I'm not going to care. The fact of the matter is, like, I will do bad things. If I can't get information out of you, I'm going to track down the people you care about most and do bad things to them. And there was even a point she even electrocuted him while she was saying that. And John basically was saying, like, she didn't have to go that far. And she also said something too, like, oh, like, I hate the fact is that you have people that you still have people you care about, yet you're going off doing these terrorist things. You're just a normal dude, yet you got yourself involved in this, and you're putting the people you love in danger. You have people you love and care about. That was her, you know, still referencing Root. So it's just like, she didn't really say, you know, it outright, but you know, that was kind of what she was kind of alluding to, like, oh, you still have the people you care about and love. So, but, you know, like I said, very great episode. Cannot wait to see where we go. Like I said, 2 more episodes till the end. Well, 1 more episode until the last episode. So, can't wait. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.